Un bel applauso di nuovo per Philip Wolf.
Buongiorno tutti. So now BTO switches to English, and I'm incredibly excited to introduce our speaker, one of the most special individuals in the industry, and in a few minutes you will know why. He started out as a global asset manager many years ago and became an investment banker specializing in the air transport sector. I guess that's where he cut his teeth on travel. And a long time ago, in 2000, when we all had more hair, he joined what we now call the Priceline Group in the United States. And he has been there ever since. What does he do? He's responsible for worldwide mergers, worldwide acquisitions, and global alliances. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the head of worldwide strategy and planning and the executive vice president for corporate development at the Priceline Group, Mr. Glenn Fogel. Welcome.
Thank you.
Where to begin? Let's give the audience some background. When we say Priceline Group, that's a very corporate legal umbrella name for a big company.
Yes.
Let's go through the brands that they should be familiar with and what they do. So,
Okay, that's an easy thing to do. Obviously, here in Italy, the brand that people would know the most is Booking.com. But why don't I go in order of how we were created?
Yep.
So the company was started in 1997. The first actual transaction was an air transaction in the US only in 1998. And it went public, and we were known as the Priceline.com company. And there was no group, it was just Priceline.com. And I came, as you said, in 2000. And later on, we figured we have to develop and move out. And in 2000...
It's tough making a living just selling air in the United States.
It was very tough. And then, of course, the disasters of 9/11 in 2001 was a problem, and the recession, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I was going back and forth to Europe trying to figure out how are we going to expand this thing. And we found a little company first in the UK called Active Hotels. Exactly.
In Cambridge, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
all they sold were hotels. And they seemed very smart guys. And I said, gee, maybe you could join with us and we could get together. And they said, okay. So we got together. And then they told me about a company called Booking.com. I had heard of Booking.com, but I hadn't met them. And I said, okay, well, let's get together with them. And we started talking. And in 2005, we put together Active and Booking as one company.
Yeah.
And they were our international effort.
Yeah.
And then, luckily enough, in 2007, I met a little company in Thailand called Agoda. Same thing, hotel only. That's all they sold. I said, well, that'd be good. We should, Agoda sounds like Asian, and Asia's building fantastic. We should have that.
Yeah.
So we bought that too and brought them in the group. And then, of course, you were fortunate. You told me about this great company in the UK that did rental cars. Mm-hmm. And all we'd been doing was selling hotels around the world. I said, oh, rental cars, that makes sense. And thank you again for that and that connection, and we put that one together. And then later on we thought, well, Meta seems to be getting pretty big. Maybe we should have a Meta unit. So we went out and we found Kayak, who we'd known for a while, and they came and they joined too. And then the last thing was Open Table, because we said, gee, you know, if people aren't home because they're traveling, they probably want to eat. So Open Table, which does restaurant reservations, we brought them in.
Yeah.
And of course, there have been little ones along the way, but those are the major brands.
So I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, meet the one person in the world that led the idea for Priceline to acquire Booking.com. That was him. You can clap. It's pretty amazing, yeah?
You know, there's one thing we should talk about here, because there are a lot of people here. I meet a lot of young people here.
Yeah.
I saw, and the thing is, Booking.com was this tiny little company.
Yep.
Had maybe 100 and something people there, making very, very small transactions. Now it's giant, but it shows how a little company really can grow.
I don't think Glenn had any outside capital back then, did it?
It was all well, they had some family and friends.
Yeah. Just to give the audience an idea of what you're talking about. So when we say in English market capitalization, That's the value of a publicly traded company. It would be like a house having a sign in the front saying how much it would sell for today in the market. So we say market cap. And that's the price of the stock times all the shares outstanding without getting into the details. But just I'll give you some idea. Accor, 9.5 billion euros. Carnival Corporation, the cruise company, $38 billion. Hertz, rent-a-car, 20 billion. Marriott, 31 billion. Air France, only, I don't know if this is right, it says 1.6 billion, but.
No, I'll believe it.
Yeah. TUI, 6 billion pounds. There's a tour operator in China called Tuniu that trades on NASDAQ, 1.2 billion. Ctrip, the largest OTA in China, 22 billion. Expedia, 18 billion. TripAdvisor, 7 billion. Make My Trip in India, 1.2 billion. Priceline Group, $75 billion. It's absolutely astonishing. It's the most valuable listed travel company, not just intermediaries, all supply categories. Like, you're so modest, I know you for a long time, but how do you explain that incredible gap to an audience like this?
Well, it's
Or
interesting.
can you?
It's one of those things people always try and figure out, how did something get from where it was to where it is today in anything, whether it be a business, a sports team that did nothing and then becomes a champion. How does this happen? And the truth is, here's the real truth, there's no way to prove how or why. I mean, we have theories why, but here are a couple of things that I think are helpful. One, don't concentrate on how valuable your company is, number one. Don't be looking at the value of your stock price every day. Don't be looking how much money are we going to make. Concentrate on what you're trying to do in your business. And the thing we wanted to do always was provide the best service to our two customers, because we have two. We have obviously the traveling customer who's going to stay in a hotel, but just as valuable is having a good relationship with the hotel partner. That's
right.
Also our customer. And provide the best service to both of them will help.
So
and that's, I
focusing.
think that's something that we really focused on, and I know perhaps some people in the industry did not.
Yeah. There are a lot of companies that say they focus on customers and product, and many of them do, not all of them, but there's got to be more than that.
Well, that's obviously part of it.
Yeah.
I think another thing that's part of it is being, and this is something we've talked about, it's timing. We happen to be at the right time, in the right place, when Europe was just beginning to go online, was just beginning to get travel
What
online.
year did you buy Booking?
We bought Active in 2004, and we bought Booking in 2005.
Good timing.
And the other thing is, we really concentrated in not trying to do relationships with the biggest chains, because we knew we could provide more service at that time to the smaller independents. You know, you had your big chains, and they said, well, we know how to sell online, even though it was 2004, 2005, and they did fine. But the small hotels, how are they going to do it?
And what's the estimate of the number of independent properties in the world? It's
Well,
staggering.
you know, that number goes all over the place, but
Yeah.
there certainly are more independent hotels than
Oh,
there
for
are
sure.
parts of a large chain.
Yeah. Even it's an odd category in the hotel sector. If you take the giants, Marriott, Accor, Hyatt, Hilton, and add their market share together, it's very, very
Still small.
tiny
Still
compared to
small.
banking,
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals, or anything like that.
It's small.
So you're in charge of what we say in vernacular corporate development. To an audience like this, that means your primary job is to be on the lookout for other companies to either acquire or, in some cases, make an investment in. So,
Correct.
how many emails and phone calls do you get in a week of companies trying to get in front of your team?
It's overwhelming. It really is overwhelming, which is exciting in the one sense in that you're seeing lots of different things. We call it flow, deal flow. On the other hand, though, it's a lot of the stuff that's absolutely nothing to do
Garbage.
with travel, or it's just, well, I wouldn't call it garbage. That's not very nice. I would say
Yeah.
it's things that aren't appropriate for us. First of all, it has nothing to do with travel. Why are you contacting me? I mean, I have nothing to do with betting. Why do you want to talk to me about buying your company online, bets?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. But even the ones that are in the travel company, it has to meet certain criteria. And certainly I understand why someone would want to be part of us, but I'm not as understanding of why we want to have them part of us.
And is it part of your mission that the marketplace should understand what those criteria are?
Look, an email takes very little time for somebody to send to me.
Yes.
It takes even less time for me to respond, no thank you.
Yes.
So I'm not going to mind people doing that because you never know. We do get some gems that come in out of nowhere. I never even thought of that.
Have you ever bought one of those gems that came in out of nowhere?
Yeah, we have actually. They're small little things that I'll give you a perfect example.
The Ninja Turtles, that one?
Hotel Ninjas.
Hotel Ninjas,
in
sorry.
Barcelona was an example. But I give an even better one, which is this tiny little company out of Tel Aviv called Clicker. And they had developed some algorithms to do online bidding for PPC, for Google, buying your AdWords on Google. And they very, very smart people. And they were great technologists. In terms of businessmen, though, they really were just starting out. And we just loved what they were doing and said, gee, why don't you join our group and we'll give you whatever you need to help develop what you're doing. Yeah. And they moved out of Israel. They moved all of them, well, I think all 6 of them, it was about, to over to Bangkok. And they now live in Bangkok. Oh. And they're wonderful. And the head person for that is now our chief commercial officer of Agoda. So it really worked out well.
And they weren't exactly in travel either, so...
No, they weren't. They weren't exactly in travel.
So you mentioned Google. Priceline Group is Google's #1 customer in the world.
Possible. So they don't disclose, but I'll go with it.
I'm more comfortable to confirm that
than,
than you would be. And I believe the number is probably north of getting close to $3 billion US, is that right? Or somewhere between 2 and 3. Anyway, they spend a lot of money on
we do spend a lot of money
on Google. A couple of things. When I interviewed Darren Houston last year, then CEO, he said something that differs from just about every travel company I've ever dealt with in the United States. He said, Philip, I would like to spend more money on Google. Can you explain that?
Well, I think...
While everyone else is trying to spend less?
I mean, here's the thing. No matter what your business is, you want to have more customers. And the way we get more customers is by marketing. And if we have a good return on the amount of money we spend on marketing, we'd like to spend more money on that channel. So if Google's giving us a good return, of course we'd want to spend more money with them. In fact, any channel that gives us a good ROI, return on our investment, we'd want to increase that.
But what's going on at the Priceline Group with its brands where it has a positive point of view about the value Google delivers, whereas just about every other company is in some version of torment about how they're addicted to them on the one hand, but they need to reduce the spend on the other. So what's that about?
You know, it's an interesting conflict that, and you read about it in the press, of people who use Google to get more customers, but they resent having to use Google to get more customers, which is interesting because you don't usually hear the same type of people complaining when they're advertising on, let's say, newspapers. They put an ad in the newspaper to get more customers. Rarely do you hear someone say, oh, I hate this because the newspaper, I have to pay them money to get a customer to come.
But with Google, it's different.
It is interesting why. Why is that? Why? And there is, you hear people saying that. And I think part of it is because perhaps they feel that Google is the only game in town. Google has a dominant position in Europe, certainly. And I think the feeling is that whether you're a hotelier or a restaurateur or anybody who needs to get customers and you know people are going to Google to search, you know that you have to pay to get that customer. And I think it's that requirement that causes that feeling.
So let's talk about this Google angst in context of what we call the conversion funnel. And clap if your companies use a conversion funnel in your metrics, in your online strategy. Don't all clap at once. Okay, 3 of them. So I'll take a minute to talk about. I bet you never thought that would happen, right? Have you ever been with a group that didn't know what a conversion funnel is?
Yeah, I have actually.
When you're with your kids? So conversion funnel, at the top, you're acquiring customers. Organizations spend marketing dollars, partner dollars to get awareness at the top of your funnel, make them aware. And as you go down the funnel, they start to do searching. You hope the searches turn into shopping, and you hope the shopping turns into buying, and you hope the buying turns into upselling, and repeat buying and loyalty, and that's the funnel. So the big talk now is Google's position in the travel sector is always growing. They bought many years ago a company called ITA Software from Jeremy Wertheimer, and recently some of the restrictions on what Google could do with that asset have all expired. But they do other things on the hotel side. It's a short way of saying that Google is climbing down and up the travel funnel, and it's making many big travel companies and little ones nervous, this latest expansion. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you can see why people would get nervous, because the fear is that your business will be eliminated. You'll be completely disintermediated by whether it be Google or somebody else. You're always worried about that. Google has a lot of assets. It's got a lot of advantages. It has a lot of customers coming. It's got a lot of money. It's got incredible technology. And the thing is, for example, your flight example is a good one. Back in the day, years ago, you went on for a flight and you would type into Google, I need to go from, let's say I have to go from here to New York. And you'd go type that in and it would come back and it would give you airlines, and it would give you OTAs and all that. Now all of a sudden when you do that, Google's popping up. Google's showing its own product there. Yeah. So an OTA or somebody who is selling the flights all of a sudden is saying, whoa, wait a minute, what happened? And the fear is that that will go beyond just flights, hotels, eventually everything.
Yeah, so the irony to me, I've been doing online travel since I had hair. 1989 was my first online travel booking. For those of you that can't believe it, sometimes I can't believe it, but back in the day, I tracked all these online companies. Every traditional travel agency hated Expedia's guts and Travelocity. I knew Steve Kaufer and Langley Steiner, the founders of TripAdvisor before TripAdvisor, and Fodor's and Frommers and Birnbaum and Michelin and Lonely Planet, et cetera. They hated TripAdvisor because these new entrants came in, spent a lot of money, and using technology and a different approach, stole a lot of market share. And now, Glenn, it seems like some of those early pioneers that really upset a lot of players, it's now the reverse. They're getting upset.
Yeah.
So am I looking at it the right way, or you think it's different?
I mean, that's the nature of all things, is disruptive technologies will surpass and get rid of the old guard. Yeah. And we see that in everything. And certainly, if you look today, we talked a little about Google. Well, the fact is, Google's looking at what's going to disrupt them. And they look at Facebook, or they look at where's the thing that hasn't been invented
Facebook
yet.
is their biggest concern right now.
I think it would be. Yeah. So certainly, it's a problem for anybody in a technology company where if you're not continuing to innovate, you're going to be left behind. I mean, look what's happened. We started out and everybody did everything on their desktop. There was no mobile anything. Your phone was actually to talk. Millennials, they don't talk on those. I don't know why they have a phone. It's not a phone.
It's a handheld computer.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. But then, of course, it moved on to mobile. And all of a sudden, the entire shift. So anybody who developed their business on the web and learned all about how to get conversion and sell on the web was now back to square one.
We were talking at dinner last night. Just like in the 90s, there were online-only travel companies, remember? The thought was crazy. Just online, no offline. And now there are mobile app-only travel companies with no web strategy at all.
Right, and it's even more interesting what's going to happen in the future. Because now we all know it's the mobile revolution, everything's
and artificial intelligence.
Right, but what happens next? And I was asking some people, and I don't believe the device is here in Italy yet. But Amazon came out a while ago with a thing that's called their Echo.
The Echo.
The Echo.
Is the Echo in
Italy or not? Anybody seen that? No.
Alexa, what's the weather tomorrow? You've seen that?
Or have you seen Google's competing product is called Google Home? Anybody see? Is that here? No. Right. So imagine this: a little device, a little hardware device, sitting, let's say, in your kitchen. And I'll use the Amazon because we have one of these devices. And I just shout out, "Hey Alexa, get me an Uber." That's all I have to do, and an Uber will show up. I don't have to pick anything up. I don't have to open. I don't have to type. I just shout. I don't even shout. I just say out loud in my normal voice in my kitchen, "Get me an Uber." Now again, what we have is a transition to a new type of an interface.
Yeah.
And when that becomes with travel, more things with travel, that also will be the thing.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of things. I call it a stew. Right? We have voice recognition. We have machine learning
Yep.
on top of massive databases. And then we have what we talked about, geolocation. So, well, there's a service called Local Measure. Have you heard of Local Measure? You could be a hotelier. You subscribe to the service every month. And for example, if somebody walked into the lobby of your hotel and took a selfie and uploaded it to Instagram, the hotelier would get an alert that this person is in your lobby and it's connected to your PMS, and you would actually know when your customer is on the premises before they get to the front desk. And you can do a lot of service things. So you think a lot of this stuff we're talking about is a big part of future travel?
Well, yes, and here's the thing. We don't know what new services are going to come down the road. Here's some things that we do know, though. It's expensive, it's hard to do, and it's not the core competency of a hotelier. So if I own a hotel, if I'm a manager of a hotel, or I'm a manager or owner of any type of travel supply, the technology is not generally going to be what I know how to do. And that's why you partner with somebody who does know how to do. Look, we know nothing about making a lobby beautiful. We at Booking.com, for example,
you know how to fill the lobby.
Well, exactly. That's the idea. What can we provide? We bring things that the hotelier can't do. For example, Italy, one of the most wonderful places in the world to visit. China, building tremendously in terms of its outbound tourism capacity. People from China want to travel and they want to come to Italy. I'm a hotelier in Italy. How do I get those Chinese customers? I don't know Chinese language. I don't know what ways they get things. Who do I use? I go to a partner like a Booking.com because we have that capacity. And the technology you just mentioned. How are all these new technologies? They're not going to spend the money to try and figure out how do I get onto that Amazon Echo? How do I get in that?
How many transactions per day on all the Priceline brands combined?
Well, I haven't looked at the number recently. It's growing very rapidly, but it's obviously we've been doing tremendous volume. That one of the benefits of having those high volume is that you can experiment very quickly. Does this work or does this not work?
We're talking millions a day, right?
Well, not millions, but over 1 million.
Yeah. Quick question as we're winding up. There's two transactions underway in the marketplace. One is German-based Trivago, hotel metasearch, which is 60-something% owned by Expedia Inc., has recently filed for an initial public offering.
Yep.
Is that NASDAQ?
Yeah, they'll be NASDAQ listed, yes. And
then in the same sector, UK or Scottish-based metasearch company Skyscanner, a deal was recently announced that Ctrip in China is going to acquire Skyscanner for $1.8 billion US. Thoughts on these two pretty big transactions underway?
No, we
Assuming
know them
you know
both.
a little bit about them.
We know them both, and because they're Meta, obviously one of our jobs is to get customers any way we can. So we are a partner with Trivago. We spend money to make sure that people who go to Trivago will come to our service, or Skyscanner if we want to do that.
And they're also competitors of your Kayak.
It works both ways because we have Kayak that does the same thing, and we obviously prefer the customers went there first. One of the interesting things about it is not necessarily that the transactions are occurring, but looking at the valuations. And if you look over time, and just picking those two happen to be out there, and you look over time, sometimes people say, gee, these seem to be very high prices to pay. And that is a function of the nature of the world's economy and how capital is very low cost to get it. And it'd be interesting to see how long this goes on. And
but they said Facebook overpaid for Instagram, and that was quickly
yes,
valid.
I think they did a good job with that.
Philip,
but remember,
we have a question from the floor.
Sure.
I'm this way, right here. Sorry. Alberto.
Hi, I'm Alberto from Mission and Mission Online. I know that you always say that your focus is on hotel, no air, no car rental, and so on. But also your focus is always been on leisure market. What about business travel market? I know that you launch Booking for Business, but apparently in Italy it's not so important. Are you going to develop let's say, the big booking for business, and in which way? Thanks a lot.
You are correct that in the past we were known more for our leisure business. That being said, though, there have always been a tremendous number of people who are using our services for business. So you're correct also that we created a separate area called Booking for Business that concentrates on providing the tools that a small to medium-sized business can use to help make their travel easier, especially because they know that their employees are using Booking.com anyway. So the question is, how can we help provide what is necessary for the employer so he or she feels better about its employees using our services? Look, in the end of the day, we want to provide travel for anybody of any types. And whether your trip is for leisure or your trip is for business, it doesn't matter in the end of the day. We want to provide that great service in all areas. And obviously, to do that, we have to concentrate in those areas as well.
Yeah. So to wrap up, this is one of those, the older we get questions, but it's a lot of experience on the stage right now. So the older we get, the older you get, Glenn, what kinds of things are you much more clear on or much more confident about? And on the other hand, the older you get, what kinds of things are you less sure about and less confident about in this crazy marketplace?
Well, I think we're reminded all the time about things we think we know, we don't know, and the U.S. election would be an example of that.
Although I got that one right.
Okay, the Brexit exit is something like that. So every day something comes up that I didn't think that was going to be a thing. But so the one thing you can be confident of is that things are going to be different than they are today. And so how can you set yourself up, whatever your business is, whether you own a hotel, whether you manage an activity, a tour operator, whatever you're doing, how do you set up your company so that you can deal with those changes and be flexible and agile? And the way to do it, I believe, is by establishing the core competencies that are unique to your business and not spread yourself beyond that, because those other areas, there'll be other companies who are going to be spending all their time and energy developing those areas.
Right.
I think that's the best way to try and make sure that throughout this change, you can still be successful for the long term.
Appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Fogel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Good
you.
job.